Hey everybody, this is Steve from OpenBOM, and in this video I'd like to talk about vendor lists, a new feature released in January of 2019 which allows you to keep track of your vendors, assign them to items, and use them in the production planning process. So let's get started. The vendor lists are located in the production planning area of the dashboard. As you can see, I've created a few vendor lists on my own. I like to organize my vendors by discipline, but there may be other ways that make more sense for your company. So let's take a look at a few that I have, and these are going to seem very familiar. I've got my catalog vendors, Granger, McMaster. I have my machine parts, and there, Steve's Machine Shop. As you can see, I give each one a vendor number. Vendor lists look very much like catalogs, which you'll notice right away. I've got my sheet metal houses, again with their information. And then finally, I have my company's approved vendor list. And as I like to give each vendor a vendor number, and I like to fill out their information and the contact information. This information will show on the POs, as we'll see later. Finally, I like to demonstrate how this is just like a catalog, and I like to do something for my buyers to make their life a little easier. As I include the thumbnail image, which is actually the logo for that particular vendor, and I do that just by adding a property called thumbnail image, and I select, or I'm going to do my Acme company right now. Let's go get the Acme logo, and boom, I now have the Acme logo in for the Acme Cable Company, and I can use a nice feature of OpenBOM and rename that company logo. So that's a quick tour of vendor lists. New vendor lists are created either using the Create Vendor List button or the Create button down here. So let's take a look at where vendor lists are used in OpenBOM and how we use them. Let's take a quick look at a bill of material that I already have produced for a clamp. Right now I'm working as a company, a clamp manufacturing company, and I have a bill of material that I created from my CAD company, from my CAD program. The next thing in the process, of course, is to create an order bomb. An order bomb is where we specify the vendors for the particular items in the order bomb. And vendor is now a protected property owned by OpenBOM, so it'll have sort of some special capabilities. So as you can see, in this example, I've assigned some of my vendors already. But in order to use a vendor list in a order bomb, we need to assign it. And here are my vendors. So I'm just going to assign, in this particular one, I'm going to look for some sheet metal houses, and I think I'm going to use some catalog suppliers. So let's assign a vendor for this guy. I've got ABC Sheet Metal and China Stamping. Okay, those are the approved, that are in my approved vendors list. And down here, I was getting this from ABC Machine before, but I think I'm going to change that to Granger. Likewise, this down here looks like a good Granger part. And finally, I think these two down here as well would be good Granger parts. So you can see by changing out the vendor lists, I get different options in the vendor pull down. And I can show that by, this looks like a nice machine part I'm getting from ABC Machine. And my choices now, since I have a different vendor lists, are shown here. So you can utilize multiple vendor lists to specify what is shown in this pull down here. Okay, so finally, let's see, I want that to be, I'm going to get that from Steve's Machine Shop. All right, so vendors are, the name of the vendors come from the vendor lists, and we build the vendor lists in the OpenBOM dashboard area of vendor lists. So we've moved down the production planning process to order bomb, and we decide to create some purchase orders. This is where your choice of vendor becomes very important. OpenBOM is going to create a purchase order for each one of these vendors that's identified in this order bomb. An order bomb is produced by OpenBOM for a particular number of units. And I covered that in a little more detail in an earlier video. So we filled out a vendor for all of our items. Create purchase orders. I get a little message that some purchase orders were created. Let's go to our OpenBOM dashboard. We're going to visit another area of the production planning area called purchase orders. I like to sort mine in reverse. There we go. So we can see that we've got a PO for Steve's Machine Shop, PO for A1 Stamping, PO for Grainger, and the others. So let's take a look at the A1 Stamping purchase order. Okay, that had one item in it. You know, that's sort of interesting, but not too interesting. Let's maybe look at the Grainger catalog. Okay, that has a few more items in it that are assigned to Grainger. The idea of the purchase order is this is the thing that you'll send to that vendor to buy these parts to build your product. So I have an opportunity here to make some adjustments on a few things if needed. But the next step in this, and you can see that we've calculated cost and extended cost based on the quantity needed. So let's go ahead and build a purchase order. This uses the very familiar export function in OpenBOM, and I probably want to get the quantity gap. Those are the numbers that I need to order, and that looks like about it into my PDF. I'm going to show you something very interesting here in a second. So let's export and create a PDF. Okay, there is a PDF. My company's name is Clampall. This is to Grainger. These are the items that I identified as being Grainger's as the vendor, as the part, and the cost. And finally, let me show you this. Show me any other purchase order that can do this. You share this with your vendor, and if, in this particular case, I created these with Onshape, if you've shared this model with your supplier, think maybe, for example, that sheet metal house, they can click on that link and be taken right to that part in Onshape. So that kind of closes the loop. If these were my sheet metal guys, they would be able to get the information here for their tooling and create my parts. So in a nutshell, what we've done is we've created a vendor list. We have a bill of materials that we created from somewhere, in this case Onshape. We created an order BOM, specified our vendors, and we were careful to use the correct supplier or vendor lists. We identified the particular vendor for each item. We created a purchase order, and here we have the one for Grainger. We also might have one for A1 Stamping, or as we can see, for any of the other vendors that were used in that PO. So I hope that's helpful. We really appreciate your feedback at support@openbom.com. Thank you.